Hi, I'm Matt, here in Michigan.
And I'm Randall here in Texas. Today, Matt and I are doing a flashback movie review of 1990's Predator 2. Predator 2 stars Danny Glover, Gary Busey, Ruben Blades, Maria Conchita Alonso, Bill Paxton, and Kevin Peter Hall as the Predator. It is directed by Stephen Hopkins, who also worked on Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, 1998's Lost in Space remake, has also done a lot of TV work, including 24 and House of Lies. But before we get into the spoiler-filled flashback review, remember, if you like this sort of video, give it a like. Those likes really help us out. If you always want to see more, subscribe and ring the bell icon so you're notified of all of our new uploads.
Now, Predator 2 is a sequel to 1987's Predator, which we have a review of, and also helped create a larger franchise which includes crossovers with Alien. In Predator 2, another alien hunter has come to Earth, but instead of the jungles of South America, it is in the urban jungle of Los Angeles as gangs and drug lords wage war for power. A group of Los Angeles police officers are trying to determine who this predator is and the real motives of federal agents who have taken over the investigation. Now, Predator 2 had about a $30 million budget and earned more than $57 million at the worldwide box office. It has received generally negative reviews from critics and negative to maybe average reviews from audiences. Randall, we have seen Predator 2 quite a few times, but what do you think about Predator 2 after this viewing?
Man, I love Predator 2. I think Predator 2 is an incredibly underrated sequel. Like a lot of movie sequels of the 80s and early 90s, kind of similar to Ghostbusters 2. Was Predator 2 as good as Predator? No. Was Ghostbusters 2 as good as Ghostbusters? No. Does that make it a bad film? No, it does not, in my opinion. I genuinely liked how Predator 2 takes the story and starts moving the mythology forward. You just don't see that with the original. So, yeah, I'm an unabashed fan of this movie. Matt, what did you think this time through?
I do like Predator 2. I try to take that critical eye to, and I guess if I take a lot of my nostalgia on it, for me it's like an okay movie, or maybe just above an okay movie. I do like a lot of the characters that we have on this. Danny Glover does an excellent job as our action star in this movie too. And some of those things you mentioned, some of my favorite parts about Predator 2 is that Predator 2 actually expands on, Predator. Actually, we get to learn more about the Predator and stuff. And really, this is the movie that helps us make like a larger franchise. Predator, I think, is just like a one-off movie, and I do enjoy Predator more than Predator 2. But Predator 2 is that movie that actually led us to a franchise.
Yeah, this movie, not to skip straight to the end, but it's one of the scenes that always resonates the most with me. At the very end, you have that confrontation similar to the end of the original one, but the real big thing about it is at the very end when the lead predator just tosses an old, hand musket to Danny Glover and it's, inscribed with a crazy old date and it's like, "Hey, we've been here for a long time and we're not going anywhere," you know? And then they're like, "What happened? What happened?" He's like, "Don't worry, you'll get your chance." You're right. This is the movie where that mythology, where that universe really gets bigger, and they really start thinking about, well, people like this movie monster. What can we do with it in the future? Even though they didn't follow anything up because this movie was so disappointing, on a budget standpoint, that you didn't get any direct sequels until 2010, and you got the AVP movies in 2004. But the less talk about those, maybe the better.
This movie, I think, too, also expands on, like, I guess the technology that these Predator aliens and stuff have, too. We don't just have an exact copy of the Predator that we had in Predator, just in a different setting. He has different weapons, like the staff, and I don't know what you want to call it, like the frisbee or whatever. The disc throw, the blade throwing disc thing, which comes big later. And we also get better explanation of, like, the Predator vision kind of thing, where the humans actually figure out, hey, this is how he's learning how to hunt and stuff, so if we negate that, he won't be able to see. And we see that, well, no, that's just his preferred use. He can change it, and it can adapt to the situation as a true hunter would. So I like that stuff that we expand on that. And like we mentioned too, with like the aliens versus predator stuff, we get that image of the xenomorph skull in like his trophy case, showing like, hey, there's all these other different like alien species that these predators go after. And it's not like they are just coming to Earth, just to hunt humans. So it creates this, wider world or whatever in Predator.
It absolutely does, and it's helped along because the story's not that bad. It makes sense in the context of the original film when they took what slivers they could from the original and expanded them, and I think mostly expanded them well. It only really shows up in hot zones.
Drawn by heat and conflict. He's on safari. Lions, the tigers, the bears. Oh my.
It shows up in not just like tropical hot zones, obviously predators like heat, but also like violence. Violence attracts a predator. It can kind of get away with what it's doing better, which is, if you think about it, what a true hunter would do. They're not there to like make themselves known. They're using the situation of the violent streets of Los Angeles or the violent jungles in the original to perform their hunting. And that works fine. So that was a smidge of the original, and a lot of people when this was released were like, well, this is stupid. You took it out of the jungle. And it's like, no, it's not about the jungle. It's about the fact that predators thrive in violent areas.
Me, one of the things I was looking at with like the story, I think it has a lot of the same beats as the Predator, and I don't know if that's really a positive or negative. Like, we still get like that group going into this area and thinking like these deaths made by the Predator are by this group that they're hunting or whatever. In this movie, it's, the gangs and stuff. And of course, we get, going towards the end, we get our like try to capture the Predator scene. We had that with Arnold Schwarzenegger and stuff where he set up all these traps for the Predator to be able to get him. And in this one too, we have our, I guess you'd say, military scientists or whatever, because they're not part of the DIA like they claim they are, setting up like a trap to try to like capture and get this Predator kind of thing. And then of course we end with our big one-on-one showdown between our big action hero and this Predator creature and stuff too. One of the things that I don't think that makes this like as good as the Predator movie is I think a lot of the tension or whatever that we get in Predator, I don't feel as much in this one. Like, a lot of the people that were the Predators killing in the second one are like drug lords and stuff. Like, you really don't care about it. And then like our police officers, when they die, they're really starting to die because they're like in the Predator's way, as opposed to like really being hunted by the Predator. I guess the exception might be the train incident where the Predator may actually be hunting our police officers, but really it was kind of drawn to, like we were talking about, he's drawn to that confrontation of, people, pulling the guns and stuff on the train and stuff too. So I think that's a little bit of a difference, where in the first movie it felt like the Predator was really hunting our commandos.
You're right, from the perspective of these cops are getting too close and just getting in the way, and it's just time to, get them out of the way. So I am going to hunt them now. So there's a little bit of that there, but kind of following the same beats of the original one. Arnold Schwarzenegger's character figures out, hey, if you're not a violent threat to it, it's not going to hunt you.
Don't! Leave it! It didn't kill you because you weren't armed. No sport.
Not that she's not a violent threat, but like the Predator scans, our female protagonist and finds out, well, she's pregnant. She doesn't even really know her. She just found out herself. And it's like, well, I'm not going to kill her, she's pregnant. And it's this thing. It's like the arrogance of humans, like the feds thinking they can capture it and thinking they figured out how it only sees in infrared. It's like, these creatures that you're arrogantly talking about have mastered interstellar travel. So they're not just mindless predator hunting beasts. Everything they do has a reason, basically.
Yeah, I think we definitely do have more on that in this movie, but really, what these movies come down to, I mean, they're 80s, early 90s, action, macho men, shooting guns and stuff. I mean, that's really what these movies are about, and I think that's one element that this movie does still do really well. Predator 2, if you like those kind of like action, macho man kind of movies, like this still fits that mold. As I'm saying, Danny Glover does a really good job as the action hero star in this. The swear words and stuff, like, I'm gonna do my own thing kind of thing. He does that well in this film.
Yourself.
It's just that, like, oh, it's not Arnold Schwarzenegger, Arnold Schwarzenegger's character wouldn't fit here. That's not what he does, basically.
Oh yeah, I agree. Sometimes some movies get a little bit stale about that when you just have like the same action star like over and over again, because then the movie becomes more about the action star. Where the Predator movies, I don't think that's really the case at all. That's why I think it's good and refreshing that we are getting like different characters that are going against the Predator, because even though the Predator changes a little bit in this, it's really by changing our other characters that we get to change the interactions that Predators have with like the action star or whatever.
And to the franchise's credit, I guess if I could give it any credit, I really enjoyed the follow-up to this one, even though it was way too late. 2010's Predators with Adrian Brody in it. I thought that was a fun, different take on it, because the Predators are basically realizing, hey, the humans are getting smarter, they're getting more technological all the time. Visiting Earth is getting more and more difficult without detection, basically. So let's just take them to a different planet, Like, that's a real interesting natural extension of what's going on in this movie, I think. I always liked Predators a lot, and it had the same problem, though. It's like, well, Adrian Brody's no Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm like, you don't want to watch the same film over and over again. Predator 2 is not Predator. It might have a lot of the same beats going on, but it is different characters in a different scenario, and how that interaction between the protagonists and the Predators occurs is interesting to watch.
And, we talked about in our Predator review how, it kind of changes genres a little bit as it's going on. So, Predator 2 is a little bit different than Predator. Predator, we kind of have, like action, like, in the jungle commandos kind of thing, where this one is more of like, a cop investigation, movie that's turning into this alien hunting you thing kind of movie. And it's kind of interesting to talk about that with like Predators. I mean, something I even mentioned in this review, just talking about how I liked, the jungle setting, and the fact that it actually felt like the Predator was hunting our characters in Predator, and I don't feel as much of Predator 2. That's something that Predators does do. It is kind of like more of a jungle scene, and the Predator is actually hunting the characters. So, you know how fan bases are. You can't please everyone.
And then, if we go even a little bit further, there's The Predator, which was one of the last movies that we saw together in theaters before I moved to Texas. And it is one of the worst movies that I have ever seen.
Yeah, Randall, I would say it's one of those movies kind of like Batman v Superman or whatever, or the first Justice League, where I kind of like block some things out of my memory.
The Predator is such a bad film and took the franchise in such a bad direction that it makes AVP look good. At least AVP respected the Predator, and Predator 2 does the same thing. It respects the character of the Predator, the species of the Predator, without like diluting them. Predator 2, I still think, is the second best Predator film, period. And just not enough people gave it the credit it deserved at the time, because it was so different, it was so divisive in comparison to the source material.
Yeah, I agree with you. Really think about it, I think Predator 2 probably is the second best Predator film. And yeah, I agree. I think it probably gets way down a bit because, it doesn't really live up to like the Predator. But what sequels really do, there's not many out there that actually do. So yeah, I think Predator is a pretty good movie, Predator 2, and it's a movie that I do enjoy. I do like watching Predator 2. Well, Randall and I want to know what you guys think about the Predator franchise, specifically Predator 2. Let us know in the comments down below. Also, be sure to check out some of our other reviews. We have new movie reviews, other flashback movie reviews. We also take a look at TV shows and have deeper dive discussions.
We also have a Facebook page. Make sure to go check us out there if you haven't. We post the day before what we're going to be posting next on YouTube. We also post some other pop culture type links there if you maybe want to get caught up on some nerd news that we definitely enjoy sharing. We also post new videos every Monday and Thursday if you just want to put us on your calendar. For now, I'm Randall here in Texas. I'll see everyone next time.
And I'm Matt here in Michigan. Have a good day, everyone. Next time on No Market Media. Please consider checking out some of our other videos.